2010 to 2015, I drove a cab in Chicago. You may remember a little show called Taxicab Confessions on HBO. I could reboot that whole show all by myself. I have three types of stories. Ones I can tell, ones I'll never tell, and ones I wish I could forget. Picture it, Chicago, maybe February of 2013. I remember there was snow on the ground. I'm working for the dispatch cab at the time. Now, when you work for a cab company, you're constantly up to speed on drama that's going on with other drivers. You can hear what others are going through on a consistent basis through the CB radio, and not just within your company, but with the others as well. It's a living network of conversations and information amongst those drivers. Now that winter, we were hearing reports from drivers at dispatch, as well as other companies, about a pair of cute gals from the south side of Chicago, late teens, early 20s. They'd get in your cab and ask to go to the south side. As you're driving along, they would flirt with you to kind of get you off guard. And then at some point, one of them would come over the seat with a cable around your neck, and the other would come around front and rob you outright. Now, there were always stories like this going around, so you really had to stay alert to stay safe. Personally, I kept a large Bowie knife, looked like something off the movie set from Rambo, right in my center console. We weren't supposed to have such things, of course, but in Chicago, you have to be ready to protect yourself, just in case. And I'll tell you, that knife, I actually used it many times, but not how you'd think. Let me explain. Anytime I had someone in the back seat that seemed questionable, or like if the vibe in the car was just getting out of hand, I would do this. First, I would start up a conversation with them, and at the same time, I'd be casually pulling the majority of the cash out of the bag and stashing it in the hidden pocket on the side of the seat. Then, if they were still acting up, I'd explain to them how it's tough out here, and I'd tell them about the current threat. You know, maybe about those two girls, for instance. Now, at that point, you could kind of take their temperature again and see if things were calming down. If they initially had something sinister in mind, this conversation often was enough to let them know that I was on my guard. However, this one night, this guy was still acting up, getting loud. He was punching the seat behind me, definitely drunk, definitely out of control. And I remember, he kind of looked like Dave Chappelle in like a Joe's Crab Shack sweatshirt. So at that point, I pulled that knife out and I twisted it in the air like Crocodile Dundee, explaining how I keep this in the car to protect myself. And that luckily, in the last 5 years, I've only had to use it 3 times. That dude calmed right the fuck down, and his entire demeanor changed in a split second. I dropped him off that night near Belmont in Sheffield, and I remember thinking that he kind of looked like the Berlin type. Later that night, I found out that another driver in the Lakeview area had been robbed. I'll never know if it was the same guy. I mean, it could have been anybody. Think about that. Take that follow button to bow down.